Good morning, everyone, for joining us this morning for Cultivating a Growth Mindset in Tutoring. My name is Kay Ruth. I am the department head for the Individualized Learning Center at Wake Tech here in Raleigh. Our Individualized Learning Center is basically just our learning center for free tutoring for curriculum and RISE students. Eleanor?
I'm Eleanor Miles. I'm Kay's colleague as a center coordinator for writing and study skills in the same Individualized Learning Center for students.
And today we're about ways you can identify mindset based on student interactions. We want to stress that even though this is cultivating a growth mindset in tutoring, what we talk about today can certainly be used in any interactions with students, especially if you are someone who has regular interactions with students, like a faculty member, someone in student services. And we also will do some practice with reframing student mindset so that you are comfortable thinking about and applying the information when you hear certain things that students are saying to let you know what their mindset is. We do have some resources for you already, and we will post our PowerPoint as one of those resources as soon as we are finished with the presentation. First, we're going to start with Carol Dweck's research. Carol Dweck is a psychologist, and she is the Lewis and Virginia Eaton Professor of Psychology at Stanford University. Her work is really what has pioneered our understanding of growth mindset versus fixed mindset. One of the studies that she did was with 10-year-olds. And basically, she gave this group of 10-year-old students work that was slightly above their grade level. So it was very challenging for them. The students who performed poorly were very frustrated and they wanted to give up, while the students who performed well were pretty excited about the challenging work. And one of them even said, "Oh, good. I was hoping I would learn something today. I wanted this to be informative." So there was already a difference in how the students were responding to the difficult challenge. The students who performed poorly did not like doing the work. Some of them had difficulty completing the work. They didn't want to spend the time on the challenging material. And when asked later what they would do differently in order to perform better on another challenging task, some of them said that they would cheat the next time. While the students who performed well enjoyed the challenge, they enjoyed learning, and they said the next time, if I'm presented with something this difficult, then maybe I'll do X or maybe I'll do Y. They started thinking of strategies they would use to meet the challenge. So as you can see, these students are kind of separating into what we call fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So a fixed mindset, as defined by Carol Dweck and her colleagues, is a belief that we are born with a certain level of skills, a certain level of intelligence and intellect, and then a certain level of talents, and that no matter what we do throughout the rest of our lives, those are all set and they don't change. A growth mindset has the opposite type of belief. People with growth mindset believe that, yes, we may be born with a certain amount of skills, a certain amount of intellect, a certain level of talent, but through hard work and practice and persevering through challenges, we can actually develop and grow our skills. We can actually change our intellect and enhance our talents. And as educators, we all have that idea, don't we, about students, that if they work hard, they can get better, they can develop their skills.
So we have a series of pop quizzes, 4 questions for you that are multiple choice. We will ask that you answer these in the chat, just A, B, C, or D, but we'll talk about the answers afterwards, so don't worry about making a mistake. That's part of the learning process as we talk about. So the first question, students with a fixed mindset, A, often respond well to what they perceive as criticism. B, often face more outside challenges than other students. C, often receive praise for being smart. D, generally have a lower IQ than other students. So if you would respond in chat, please, with A, B, C, or D for your answer. We've got a small group, so somebody's got to answer. Thank you. Okay, we've got as B, but actually C is correct answer for this one, because fixed mindset students are often praised for being smart, and this gets them into the attitude that, well, I've got to maintain my status as a smart person. And therefore, that's why it's more difficult for them to accept a challenge. If they don't perform well, if they make a mistake, they see that as disrupting their vision of themselves as a smart person. They don't face any more outside challenges or have any different an IQ between those with fixed and growth mindset. It is that inability to be willing to make a mistake in order to learn or to focus on the learning process. Yeah, we do have a C response there from one of you, and they truly have a difficult time recognizing criticism as constructive criticism. Okay, so Kay will do the next question. Thank you.
And I just want to say that now all of the questions are just going to pop up. We wanted to do the first one slowly, but now you'll have the same setup where you just answer in the chat A, B, C, or D, and you get everything at one time. So a major difference between students with a fixed mindset and students with a growth mindset is, I'll let you read and respond. We're getting a lot of answers again. A lot of A's this time. So we'll go ahead and talk. Thank you for responding. Keep the responses coming. The answer is A, fixed mindset students focus on what they cannot do because, again, a growth mindset student is someone who realizes, oh, I can't do this. I'm having difficulty with doing this, but they don't let that stop them from trying and learning. The fixed mindset student is the student who says, I can't do this, I don't understand this, and allows that to be a stopping point in their learning career, unless they are pushed by outside forces. So the actual answer is A, though I do want to talk about some of the other responses. So B, fixed mindset students tend to make more mistakes. Technically, there is no difference in how many mistakes one set of students makes over the other. It's just that when growth mindset students make mistakes, they don't mind and they decide this is a learning opportunity, so I can learn from my mistakes. Whereas a fixed mindset student might be set back by the idea that he or she is making mistakes because, again, they're fixated on the label of being a good student or a smart student, or even the label of being a dumb student or a failure. And so those are kind of self-fulfilling. They either say, I'm not doing well because I'm a dumb student, or I'm supposed to be an A student. Why am I having trouble with this? Why am I making mistakes? So they can become fixated and challenged by mistakes, and then it makes it harder for them to move past them. For C, fixed mindset students never compare themselves to others. That's actually one of the things you can listen for a student with a fixed mindset. Johnny made an A and he's having an easier time in this class, and I don't know why I can't get it. That's a fixed mindset because they think they should be doing what everybody else is doing instead of focusing just on the learning process for themselves. And then, fixed mindset students can be very hardworking when it comes to, the classes that they enjoy and the classes that they feel are not as challenging. So they're not necessarily lazy. They're just, they get stopped by challenge because it's frustrating for them. So thank you for your answers. I am going to go to the next question. And Eleanor, do you want to take the next one?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
So this one focuses those in education like us who focus on what fosters the growth mindset, A, B, C, or D. And if you'll answer again in chat. Yes, the D's are coming in, and that's indeed the correct response. It's the learning process that we can help the students focus on that will give them that growth mindset, that it doesn't have to be immediate understanding or coming into a class already understanding is what some students with a fixed mindset expect of themselves. We can help them with mistakes, but going back to see, what have you learned from this mistake? Now, isn't it kind of stuck in your mind, fixed in your mind as something you're not going to forget now? You made that mistake, and then you're going to go through that critical thinking process of figuring out why, and then what is the alternative. The grades, I know that's hard to get out of students' heads, but instead, the process of learning will help encourage the students. Sometimes students come in and will say, I didn't pass my English 111 class. And we can say to them, but think how much you learned in that process and how much stronger you'll be going into the next semester English 111 class. Negative stereotypes. Sometimes students come to us with already those ingrained. A certain ethnicity is going to be good at math, a certain gender is not going to be good at math, and that can get in the way of the learning process. And so it's our job to steer them away from focusing on the grades, their mistakes, and the stereotypes, and say, what have you learned? What can we learn right now? And how can we make a plan to move forward? So thank you for your responses. We'll move now to the last and fourth in our pop quiz.
So the next one, a major difference between growth mindset students and fixed mindset students is, what do you think? A, B, C, or D? Answer in the chat. And the answers are coming in. B. And yes, I will go ahead and say the answers are, are fast and strong B. And that is correct. Students with growth mindset do not mind struggling. They don't mind facing the challenge, having difficulty. They know that in the long run, they are learning. Students with the growth mindset avoid seeking assistance. That may or may not necessarily be true, because students, sometimes they know their strengths and their weaknesses. They know to seek out support. So, like from an ILC or from the library. So, it's not necessarily that they avoid seeking assistance. They might, though, relish the opportunity to learn on their own, but that's not necessarily a trait for either mindset. And then C, students with growth mindset are faster at completing tasks. Again, students, we all know, they learn at different paces. They have to process information differently. And so growth mindset students are not necessarily faster at completing the tasks. Again, they're just up for the challenge of completing a task that may prove very difficult because they know they're going to learn. And then the last option, students with growth mindset usually have more study time. That may or may not be the case. Whatever students are facing outside, whatever, as Eleanor said before, non-academic barriers they're facing doesn't really necessarily have an effect on their fixed mindset or growth mindset, because the mindset is really about, can I improve? Can I get better? Fixed mindset, the idea is we can't move past this. I've already got everything I've got. Now I just need to use it. And growth mindset is, I can get better, I can improve, I can learn more. So, just to sum up everything now that we've discovered together through our quiz, when students have a fixed mindset, they attach great importance on labels. And it could be a positive label like smart or success, intelligent, A student, or it can be a negative label like you're dumb, I'm too dumb to learn this, I'm a failure. Again, they think they are born a certain way and they can't change that. And so when they face difficulties learning, they are either stopped because they think, well, I was smart in high school, I don't know why I'm not smart now. They think there's something wrong with the label and there's something wrong with themselves, or they allow that struggle to be the self-fulfilling prophecy of, they're not a good student, they don't belong, they're dumb, they're a failure. So students with a fixed mindset focus on grades because the grades prove the label. They don't like the challenging work, and they focus on their inability to get things done. And I just want to say, full disclosure, when Eleanor and I first started learning about growth mindset and fixed mindset, I realized that I was a fixed mindset student, because when I was in high school, everything seemed relatively easy for me. That I had challenging classes, but they weren't very difficult. When I got to college, I had the rude awakening that I wasn't the smartest person on the block, that there were all these other really intelligent, smart people, and that everything wasn't easy. And I had to really buckle down and study in order to learn. And it was very difficult for me. So you can have a fixed mindset and still do well in school, but it's just a rude awakening when you face challenges and you're not used to that. And thank goodness I had parents who made me study, or I might not be where I am today. For growth mindset, students figure out ways to be successful. They figure out strategies that will help them learn. And a lot of times they do it by themselves. They don't necessarily reach out for help, but a lot of times they do reach out for help. They focus on learning more than on grades. They persevere even when work is difficult. And when they are unable to complete a task, they figure out what they need to do in order to get the work done. So they can set small goals for themselves in order to learn and work through whatever the difficulty is. So those are the major differences between fixed and growth mindset.
So I think it's important for all of us to know the research behind Carol Dweck's work with growth mindset. She and her colleagues at Stanford did a series of studies on different groups of students to understand how attitudes toward abilities and intelligence actually affected student learning or success over time. And so this chart represents a 2007 study that she did with her colleagues with 378 students, so a large number over the course of time, 3 years, so a longitudinal study. And these were students who were transitioning to 7th grade math class with new concepts. Her group divided the students into 2 sections, the control group and a growth mindset group. And with the growth mindset group, what she did was give them an intervention, is what she calls it, for the growth mindset. And it was really very similar to what Kay and I are doing today, just educating the students about the meaning of a growth mindset and giving them some strategies, but making sure that they know how to move forward with that growth mindset with those ideas. The other control group was just encouraged to do the best that they could. And you see the difference here that's emerging for those who received the growth mindset intervention. Their scores climbed over time. And those who did not receive the growth mindset intervention, you can see the grades going down from the similar starting point of the grades. And so the students with the growth mindset intervention were more oriented toward learning rather than focusing on the grades. And they focused on the power of effort in order to be successful. So in the next slide, I'm going to tell you what Dweck tells her students and what she encourages as educators to tell the students so that they know the why, the science behind what we're telling them about growth mindset. It's not just someone saying, oh, try really hard, you'll do well. It is truly science behind what we are telling them that's going to work if they practice, if they keep working hard toward accomplishing a particular task and problem solving. Some of you may have science degrees, some of you may teach this exact subject, but I had to get my neurons firing to review the information about what we know now through the studies in neuroscience that are relatively new in the world of science. We know now from those researchers that the brain actually can rewire itself based on experience. And this is called neuroplasticity. The brain can grow more neurons. And the neurons are the cells that make up the gray matter in our brains. And the more we work on a particular task, then the more the connections are actually strengthened as we are learning. And that's how we learn. So in the next slide, I've got a little diagram of the neuron. And she does say, especially college students, let them know. Maybe a little less detail for elementary or younger students is what she does with her studies, but definitely with the college students, give them these facts, give them the data to show it is based on science, what we're telling them to do for practice is actually necessary for their success on the college level. And so here's the neuron, and these neurons have the axon, the extension that's reaching out toward other neurons to actually make the communication. I'm grateful to Dr. Hammond, who gave me the analogy that helped me understand, using the analogy of the baton in a relay race as the information that the neurons are exchanging between one another in the relay race. And so all the electrical impulses and chemical interactions are going on in the neuron and passing along the axon, and the dendrites are growing. The brain, in its infinite wisdom, knows that if we need this information and we're using this information, it needs to grow more dendrites for accepting the information from other neurons. And then the more that we use this particular concept, this learning process, the more the brain knows how to strengthen the neurons, that neural pathway. So you see the darker blue along the axon extension, and that is when that shows the brain. Again, it's marvelous what it does. It actually secretes this fatty substance that wraps around the axon to strengthen it and actually make the process of information go faster between the neurons. The myelin builds up and helps us like a pathway that gets worn down once we've gone back and forth. Another analogy from Dr. Hammond. And this way, we can tell students, you may not know something right away because you've never developed this neural pathway yet. Why would you expect yourself to start out knowing this? If you practice, if you work on it, you're building the neural pathway and then strengthening it. And so students need to realize how much time and effort is just expected when you need to learn new concepts or develop new skills. And so a discussion of the science is giving them the why away from the self-judgment that students often do to themselves if they have a fixed mindset. So we can help students go from a fixed mindset as tutors, as instructors, to the growth mindset. We can listen and hear. You're already starting to see the patterns through the pop quiz, and we'll give some other examples of different attitudes that students have as part of a fixed mindset. The more we, of course, listen to our students, with it in mind, does this student have a fixed or growth mindset? We begin to identify and then know how we might help them. Part of that is just validating what they've already done that they seem to be overlooking in the middle of a task that feels hard. Take a moment to say, but think about what you learned in pre-curriculum English that is helping you now. You went into that course not knowing this, and this, and here you've got the mastery of that. You can do this by a similar practice for the requirements of this English 111 class. And that helps them to refocus their perspective, explain to them about the neural pathways, focus on that science to get them out of, I can't do this, to, okay, if I work hard enough on this, I can do very well, and let them know that for everybody in a college class that's a 3-hour class, they're expected to do 6 to 9 hours outside of class, studying, practicing, reviewing, reading chapters, learning the material. And so it's part of the learning process to actually put in that time. Muted. Okay, you're muted.
I said I wasn't going to do that, and I did it. Thank you, Eleanor. We just want to practice some of the reframing um, ways of helping students hear what they're saying and then helping them reframe their mindset by responding in certain ways. And again, there's a website with this information, and we have that information already loaded into the documents for this presentation. So this is Dr. Carol Dweck. One of the most interesting and compelling ways to help students that she describes is just helping students understand the power of the word yet. When students say, I don't understand, I'm confused, I can't get this information, if you help them reframe by just saying yet to a lot of their statements, adding that to the end of a lot of their statements, then it helps them move from the issues they're having now to the future when there's a possibility of changing that condition, right? So instead of you don't understand yet. You're confused right now, but there's a possibility of our being able to change that, right? You don't get it yet. So if we help them see that future possibility of changing this condition by using yet and helping them reframe how they're thinking in now terms to the future terms, then we can help them start moving past their struggle. So one of her examples of a good response is, you can't do this yet, but why don't we practice? Or, but why don't you keep working on it for a little while? Why don't you take the next 2 weeks to practice, and then we can regroup and see how far you've gotten. So adding that yet just helps them change their mindset to see possibilities. A good question, she says, you can use is to reframe students' thinking, is to just ask how long they think it should take to learn something. You know, how long do you think it should take you to learn fractions? And that kind of helps students see, okay, I've only been working on fractions for 2 days. I've only been working on fractions for a week. Maybe I need a little bit more time to learn it, right? So they pull themselves out of comparing themselves to other people. They think about their process and where they need to go. So that's the power of yet. There are other ways to help students reframe and help them focus on things like working hard, building their skills, making progress, and not really thinking about grades. So some good responses for students is, just to acknowledge, like Eleanor said, acknowledge where they are, acknowledge how far they've come, but acknowledge that they're starting out to fix the issue. So I know math is difficult. You've come to the right place for assistance. Something as simple as that. Or writing takes time to learn. That's true for everybody. Again, we're reframing it so that they're not focused on their failure. They're focused on the progress and building skills and the process of learning. It's good to see you're coming here working hard. I hope you can see your hard work is leading to improvements. And then some questions to ask. Have you seen any improvement in your work since we've been working together? I love to ask that of students who have come to the Writing Center for a whole semester. At the end of the semester, can you see how far you've come? And usually they're very pleased and surprised that they can tell a difference in their writing. Do you know what parts of the assignment you want to work on with a tutor? Just where's that work that we need to put in, right? Will you come back and let us help you again so that we can continue building skills?
And another part of going from the fixed to the growth mindset is to help students focus on the process of building those skills. with these responses, getting better at fractions takes time. Keep practicing and keep coming here for support. The process, and making mistakes is just a part of that process. Yes, you made a mistake, but now you're here. Let's focus on what's going on right now. Let's make a plan to move forward. And therefore, you can say, what should you do next? What will your next step be? And when did you learn from making that mistake? And how are you going to do something different the next time so that you don't make this mistake again? Work on the strategies, focus on the process and the learning that comes from making mistakes along the way, and not seeing it as a problem or something unusual.
So now we thought we'd do some practice.
Muted again. Muted.
Eleanor, can you hear me? Did you say something?
You're muted, Kay.
I can hear you, Kay.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I can't tell if you can hear me or not. Okay, thank you.
We're not hearing. We're not hearing.
Eleanor,
wrong with Eleanor's. I can hear you, Kay.
can you let Eleanor? She's concerned.
So I'll go on. I'll go on. We're not hearing. We are going now to some scenarios, and Kay found this picture. We both love it. The little girl is trying so hard, putting in that necessary effort. And so we have some scenarios for the kinds of attitudes. Okay, Kay can hear us both now. Okay.
Okay. So I believe everybody can hear me. If Eleanor can't, I'll stop if she starts speaking again. But we just thought, what if a student comes and has a defeatist attitude? I know I'm going to fail, even though I keep coming here, and, they just want to give up. How would you respond to this student to help reframe the student's mindset? And you can answer in the chat. It takes a second for us to see your responses. So while we're waiting for you to respond, I'll go ahead and take a stab at what I might say to a student. I might say, well, tell me what's going on in your class. Why do you feel like you're going to fail? I would try to pull more information. Yes, Heather has a great answer. Nobody's a failure who tries. Let's see what's keeping you from feeling successful. Let's sit down and make a plan. That's, yes, exactly where I was going. Yes, let's figure out what you're doing. Why are you feeling this way? And then let's sit down and make a plan. Thank you, Heather. Assure them it is good they can come in, that they're asking for help, and that is the first step. Yes. Thank you, Devon. What are your goals here? Thank you, Carolyn. Start by making sure they have a defined purpose. Yes, and connect to that involvement and purpose. Tori says, let's talk about the steps we can take for you to be successful. Yes. I believe Eleanor is still having trouble hearing me. So thank you all for answering while we try to troubleshoot. And I did miss someone say, you keep coming, that's an achievement. Thank you, Catherine. Because yes, we want to encourage them to think about their process. And part of the process is coming to get help, right? Part of the process is making a plan. Part of the process is recognizing that they are taking that first step to becoming successful. So thank you for sharing. I'm going to advance to the next slide and let Eleanor take this one.
So often students are feeling overwhelmed. This scenario comes from a real life experience that I had with a particular student who would truly come in disorganized because he was so overwhelmed by all the classes that he was taking, and he just couldn't figure out what to do first. He generally needed some time to talk about how difficult college was feeling to him, but he just needed a little bit of a push and guidance to say, okay, I know this is hard validation of that, but what can we do today? What can we focus on right now? So this is the student who comes in. What can we say for that person? Excellent. What is due first? Get that in order, set the priorities, help the student with that guidance. What can we do to help you focus on this assignment, and then develop the plan of attack? And yes, take a deep breath. And we often would do that with this student because he truly just needed to settle for a moment to be able to focus at all on a task. And yes, organization was a lot of what was behind it. The guidance that the student with some life skills we discussed. Yes, let's work on the assignment that is first due right now in this appointment, but can you schedule for tomorrow for a time management or an organization session with us? And very definitely getting that perspective of stepping back for a moment so that we could guide them toward what's most important at this time. Yes, and so Amy's saying she's had this happen before and talked about how it made them feel and helped them to navigate and make a schedule for the upcoming assignments. After they understood how to navigate and make a plan, they felt better. That anxiety dissipates, and they were able to actually focus because they weren't having the brain freeze that the anxiety often causes. So thank you for your answer. One more scenario that we'll look at here. And this is just, we got a couple more. This is a student who lacks confidence, coming in saying, I don't know where to begin with this module. My instructor says that I have plenty of time, but it takes me forever on each question. Plus, I can't understand the newest concepts. How would you respond to this student? Yes, some good responses coming in through chat. Tell me a bit more about how you take notes. Is there a strategy? Let me introduce you to this and that study help. Yes, focusing on the study skills and the connections that they can make with the new topic to something that they already know or a pattern that they see to get them into the subject, give them that big picture, absolutely. And the encouragement, you can do this, but you come to the right spot for the help because we can do this together. And we can build on what the earlier ones are as concepts that need to be conquered, but conquer those first without worrying about the newest ones that are to follow and not worrying about the speed. It's not about the grade. It's not about the speed. It's about the learning process. Let's understand the early concepts and move forward once we've done that to what you need to learn next that you just haven't learned yet. More responses coming in. Also suggest emailing the professor that they should do that for additional help. Excellent. The communication is very helpful in the long run. Point to success that they had in the recent past. Excellent point. And talk it out. Talk out what the assignment requirement is, what the student's thoughts are at that moment. And that reveals where some of the anxiety is coming from, and gets it in perspective. And that's from Carolyn's response.
I hope Eleanor can hear me. I'm not sure. But since we have 2 minutes left, we want to make sure that we talk about everything that we wanted to present. So I skipped ahead through the last few scenarios. Eleanor? Well, I will just go ahead and say that when we start to foster a growth mindset in students, eventually we will see a change. They'll have a broader understanding of when to come and get help, and how to come and get help, how soon they need to come and get help from one of their resources like the Learning Center. They should have lessened anxiety about their schoolwork, and appreciation for the resources that are there, like a learning center or a library or an advisor. They should feel more satisfaction with their coursework, more of a willingness to accept challenges. And over time, and this can be a long time, but over time, an improved attitude about the challenges that they face, and hopefully improved grades.
And the changes that we'll eventually see in ourselves is the way that we respond to students. And maybe this hasn't been a problem for you, but just that twinge of frustration that we may feel with students. We may develop our own strategies for responding to the students' questions and concerns in the ways that you've thought through in response in the chat that you've given. Our attitude towards students' attitudes, and that builds that rapport with the students. We're used to listening about the subject matter, but going back behind the attitude that may be causing the problem is essential to the process as well. And how we see ourselves as a role in the student success, how we can help them make a transformation from the fixed to the growth mindset, to help them focus on the learning process instead of the grades is essential to their learning just as much as our helping them with the writing skills or with the concepts in math or science that they're focusing on. And we can even say to ourselves, and Kay and I have done this, what have I learned? Just haven't conquered this yet.
And we want to remind you all that we all are very aware that not all students, even with reframing their mindset, are not going to be able to complete the work that's assigned to them and the time that's given to them. Sometimes students need more time to work and learn information. And unfortunately, we have a system where we have to have deadlines because we have a certain amount of time to teach during a semester or to support them in our resource centers a semester. And not all students are going to pass their classes the first time. That's just the reality of life, right? And of learning. But we do believe that they can build their skills, they can increase their understanding, and they can gain confidence to help them learn and thrive when they have their mindset reframed. And we are 3 minutes over, but we welcome any questions. There haven't been any posted in the Q&A. If you would like to ask us any questions, please feel free to, and here's our contact information. And please do post because I want to make sure that Eleanor has a chance to answer, and she can't hear me, so please do post whatever questions you have in the chat. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will post the presentation. Thank you for joining us. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you, John, for attending.
Thank you.
Eleanor, can you hear me yet? No. Thank you.